Welcome to another podcast episode of Don't Worry About the Government. I'm Ronnie Weiss, broadcasting live from the Sheraton Maui and my beautiful suite. I'm rubbing it in. Have fun in Texas there, Cliff Fiscal.
I am hanging out in a closet. next to a water heater. That's a water heater.
I'm gonna
it's
go
like
snorkeling Maui. I'm gonna go snorkeling and diving today. I imagine you're doing about the same.
The water's very nice over here. I don't know about you. It's nice and warm.
Nice. All right, so Obama just had a talk about the fiscal cliff. Very brief speech. I honestly thought it was going to be a bit longer. What did you get from it?
Barack Obama has really turned a corner. You see, now he's really going to be a liberal. He's not going to be doing the deal-making and all the stuff that wasted all of his political capital during the first year and a half of his first term. He's not going to fall for that trap again. This time, he's going to meet with the Republicans and compromise.
Well, so, I mean, is your take this was bad, or is your take that people are delusional?
This is more of the same. Really, it's not that this is bad so much as the people who thought that Barack Obama was going to fundamentally change need to get a wake-up call, and this speech should have been the first sign of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's been the case. It's always been blank slate. You know what? What's more interesting, I guess, is Boehner. Boehner has changed his tune, and the Republicans in general. I think that's the more interesting story here. Let's touch on Obama briefly. He had his little pen gag. Great. Okay, you'll sign it. You have a pen. I don't know why in this day and age people still do stuff like that, and MSNBC already is glomming onto that. Oh, he has a pen.
He's ready to do it. He's ready to work with them.
Yeah.
Okay, he's always been ready to work with them. I don't know. It's sort of like the Jobs Act. Whatever happened to that thing? Remember that thing?
I mean, yeah, but you had an obstructionist Republican thing. I guess there really isn't much to say about what he talked about. There wasn't anything particularly new. He's willing to work with them, as you said. So Boehner. Boehner says that Obamacare is the law of the land, and he's sending mixed signals. He says everything's on the table. He's the most reasonable guy in Washington, and then he tweets full repeal of Obamacare. So where do you think things are going to land with compromise with the Republicans? Where's their mind?
Well, I think this is interesting. Okay, so with Boehner, I think the big issue is that he's worried about Eric Cantor. Eric Cantor is younger than Boehner. Eric Cantor eventually would like to become Speaker of the House, and will probably eventually become Speaker of the House. And Eric Cantor is also more in touch with this Tea Party base. And now, if Boehner is perceived as striking too many deals, compromising too much with Obama, which in this case would mean pretty much giving anything to Obama, let alone changing on immigration or waffling on the healthcare stuff, I think Boehner is going to pay the price for that. And I think that will result in eventually Eric Cantor getting the speakership. So how much is Boehner willing to deal is probably going to be contingent on how credible the threat from Eric Cantor is.
What's interesting to me is I think where they're going to have more leeway with each other is they're not going to raise taxes. They're going to get rid of loopholes and deductions and things like that. I think that's where it's going, where it's the nitty-gritty stuff that people don't notice as much. But then again, I guess maybe that's not necessarily that smart because that pisses off the Republicans.
Let's talk about those deductions because, yes, the general people don't notice it and they don't benefit from it. For the people who do are the top 1% and all the donors. So they're going to notice if you're getting rid of the exclusions on capital gains on home sales, interest on tax-exempt bonds, and other things like that, mortgage interest deductions, healthcare deductions. When you start going after those things, particularly the mortgage interest deduction, because that's the rich people's homes, they're not going to like that. I mean, this is always the issue with Romney whenever he was talking about the deductions, is that we have a deduction system here that totals to $1.1 trillion, and it's largely regressive, which means the wealthiest who have donated to this campaign benefit the most from all these deductions. So while all that talk is nice and broadening the base is nice talk, unless you're really serious about talking about the child refund credit, the earned income tax credit, and the American Opportunity credits, which only total $122 billion annually, you're not going to get much done. There's not that much wiggle room.
Maybe I should back off from that because here the problem with the loopholes and deductions is that stuff won't come back With taxes, you can raise or lower them consistently, but with a loophole and thing, I don't know. I think that's a more uphill battle. So maybe the tax thing is an easier sell. You sell it to your 1%ers, and then you go, okay, we're going to retake it later on, and this is what it needs to be. I mean, it really is contingent upon if Obama really will veto anything that does not raise for revenue, and I don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that bothers me, and I actually connected the dots last night with this when I was on Bearman, is just that for the whole campaign, we had Romney's 13% tax rate thrown in our face, and the fact that Romney pays 13%. Well, how does he do that? He does that through deductions. So unless you're going to get serious about doing something about those deductions, which is a politically tricky thing, the rich will ultimately still have a lower tax rate.
Yeah. So what do you think? I mean, are we now in an era of compromise between the Republicans and the Democrats, or will fiscal cliff happen? Like, what do you project over the next few months and years?
I severely doubt that fiscal cliff will happen. Even though fiscal cliff would take us into a recession, we would be out of that recession within a year and have our long-term debt and deficit problems largely resolved. The odds of us actually doing that are not likely. So I think what will probably happen is that there will be a punt. Republicans and Democrats will come up with some short-term fix to kick it down the road 10 years, and then it'll be really bad. But by then, none of them will be in office. That's how politics works, right? I mean, we're only going to have a one-year window of compromise here, dude. 2014's around the corner.
I think that they're going to raise revenue, and they're just going to bump up where the number is. That it's not going to be 250,000. I think that's what it's going to be. It's going to be 500,000 or 300,000 or whatever it is. I think that mark is not going to be acceptable, and that's going to change. That's my prediction. I think they will compromise. I trust that Boehner is extending his hand, and we'll see how that goes. We're Don't Worry About the Government. We're at don'tworry.tv. You can find us over at Facebook. We have a page and a group. You can find us on Twitter, DWATG. Cliff Fiscal, who are you?
I can be found on the Twitter at Chris, ChrisNovembrino.
I'm Ronnie Weiss. You can find me all over the internet. Bye-bye from Maui.